My name is Kerith Muir from Jamaica.
Yeah, Rahubat Zamal.
Yeah, Rahubat. So my question is, the the Negroid beings that are watching over us, do they have the complete power to protect us and repel reptilian beings? And do they have the power to completely repel all other negative extraterrestrial forces?
Okay, one of the things we encourage people to do is to study and read, because the question has to be clear as possible. When you say the Negroid beings that are watching over us, we don't really refer to them as Negroid beings. We're talking about elders in terms of the Natharu, who are over our race, and they're not only over our race, they're over the multiverse and the cosmos. And again, when you say reptilian, there are different types, different species of reptilian. We are also tied into what you're calling reptilians, if you break down what we do as a people. And the reason we behave and act in certain ways is because we have the genes of reptilians within us as well, and we have genes of the shaggies within us. That's why when you have hair, a product of mixing with shaggy beans and mixing with like the Duanis and so forth. So every person has the different natures within them, right? The three major ones, which is the grays. If you see how you are as a baby in the womb, you are going through the process of evolving from a reptile being in a sack of water, or a reptilian being. You're breathing in water, and you're also looking, your skin suit is gray because you're generally in water. If you've ever been in, as a Nagaru, if you've been in water for sustained periods, when you look at your skin, you get that grayish type of look. So you are like a gray. Your head is bigger than the rest of your body. Your eyes are bigger, right? And then you go through that process and come onto land as a mammal, but then you also have the DNA or genes within you. So they do, in terms of, they're the original proper guardians of the galaxies and going on to the universe. So yeah, but it has to be very specific as to which person we're talking about, which extraterrestrial beings we're talking about, and yeah, what exactly are you talking about when you say protection? Because we have the master teacher Panda Babyanun, who is one of those beings that we're talking about, and the protection is what he's given us by way of the culture. But you can't know the culture if you don't study and read the scrolls, and actually not just read, comprehend what you're reading, and then put it into practice or put it into action or implementation. So if you're not reading, then you're not going to be able to really fully understand what he's teaching. You follow?
Yes.
So does that answer?
Okay, so specifically, I was talking about, like, I was asking about the elders. Do they have the power to protect us from negative reptilians?
Right. But what I'm saying is, you have the power. They give you the power to do that. But you have to learn and put it into practice. This is not a religion where people just think someone or some being is just going to come and do everything for them. So they give you the solution. It's just like, if you ever heard the phrase, if you feed a man, you only feed them for one day. But if you teach them how to fish, they can feed themselves forever. So you're being given all the tools that you need to protect yourself. And if you don't put that into practice, if you're not doing the work, then you're not going to be protected. So there's a mentality we have of a savior or someone else that's going to do the work. And this is really fed by way of religion, where you just think that you're saved, right? Even those terms you use, saved, you're saved. And you say that salvation, the word salvation ties into being saved and comes from really being from the word Slavic, or the Slavics, which is dealing with someone saving you. That's why people say that you will be what? Set free, even though it doesn't say that. It said the truth shall make you free. meaning that if you're being set free, you're already acknowledging and accepting that you're in bondage. But if you make yourself free by applying the knowledge that's been given you, because you can't say, we love to say we are gods or goddesses. If you're God, then you should have the tools to do for yourself, to do for self. Yeah, so the helping hand you're really looking for is at the end of your own arm. But people feel like somebody else should just save them. And the question is, save you from what? Or protect you from what? What do you need protecting from? Most people need
Yeah.
protection from themselves, to be honest. But we
But
do it
you know
together.
something I
Go ahead.
something I've been looking at though. It's like I've heard that the reptilians, they've conquered other species from different planets out there. So
That's true.
what I'm thinking is that even though you say we're given the knowledge to protect ourselves, is it that easy to just repel them when other beings couldn't repel them that easily? Like I heard that the Lyrians, many of them were wiped out by reptilians, and they did put up a fight, but they still couldn't protect themselves completely.
Right. But that's what I'm saying, that if you are, okay, remember, we say this all the time, that the person that has defeated them before in the past, because when you read that book in the books of Revelation, when he talks about Michael and his angels fought against the dragon and his angels, if you read the whole of that chapter, right, when you say dragon, you're talking about the reptilians. The dragon is the draconians, or the dragonians from the Draco constellation. So the person that was able to defeat them was Michael and his angels. And that's because Michael is referred to as the warring angel. And he's the one that taught his angels how to fight together to defeat the draconians or the reptilians. So that same Michael, right, because it tells you that they were cast out down here to the planet Earth. They were not to be in heaven anymore, right? So he came down here and he's been using the same tactics in the last 6,000 years to, as you say, rule and control and subjugate people by his six ether forces. When you're saying Leviathan, the Levites, they talk about the Levites in the Bible, that's the law. Levi means law, because that's dealing with the Levitical law. So the law Athan, or the law of sin. It's the law of sin that is used, right, to make people do things in six ether forces. So when you say sin, the person you're talking about is referred to in many different languages. In the, Sumerian, or you say Nana, or Nana sin, or sin. That's where the word sin comes from. When people are reading the Bible, they say sin lies at the door, right? When you look at the Cain and Abel story, it was due to the fact that the ritual that took place, the being that wanted meat sacrifices, they like blood, meat, and flesh. And I should stop saying meat. They like flesh and blood. So this is where that you're being initiated into the law of sin. And the system that we're in right now, the code of Hammurabi, which is again one of the codes that ties into the laws of sin, and the religion is a flavor of this, right? This is why the Bible and the books of, like the Quran, etc., if you look at them carefully, the deities over them, they're telling you to make flesh and blood sacrifices, sprinkle blood all over the altar. And then you look at the people that are ruling the world, they are behaving and doing the things that their deities ask of them, and they worship and they talk about Moloch, and they do all these things that are now being exposed worldwide. So I'm saying to you, the same Michael is here on the planet Earth, as in the incarnation, right? And he's the one that can defeat these reptilians and defeat the dragon, or the draconians, the reptilians, and their minions that also work for them from the top down. But if you don't know and you're not in Michael's army or angels, then you're not going to be taught how to protect yourself. And when you learn and put the knowledge and the culture into practice, your whole energy field, your aura and everything, the way you think, you're going to rise to a level that, like you say, you repel. This is why we teach about the importance of your thoughts, the language you use, the food you eat, the people you hang around with, the things that you do. All of this has an effect on you as a being. So you have to learn what you need to do to yourself. Because when you say guard yourself, you hear the word God, guard. So you have to be taught. That's why we're saying to you that if you're doing what you're supposed to do, then you're going to be under the protection. But if you're not, you're putting yourself outside of the protection. Even so much so that the book of Revelations, I know we quote these books because for people in religion, they may not know it, but subliminally, when people ask questions like, who's going to protect us? Who's going to save us? What's going to happen at the end? All of these things is really coming from a religious mindset. And it tells you have to be counted inside the tabernacle of the Most High, or the enclosure. Yeah? The tabernacle is an enclosure of these beings, of these people that have made themselves and cleaned themselves, right? They say, and they're ready for the wedding. And they use the word like white and purity, which is dealing with, someone that has done the work on themselves to clean themselves inside out, physically, mentally, spiritually, and so forth. And then that's how you get to be protected, because you cannot be calling somebody, let's say, a devil, and then you act and behave like a devil because you've just transformed yourself and become the devil yourself. That's why all these lower, vibrations and like what we call the mental diseases, hate, racism, lust, all these things, we've got to learn how to eradicate them to a certain degree and suppress them so that you can bring out your godly side. Because as I was saying, the natures you have, your reptilian nature, you have a reptilian brain, you have certain aspects of you that are reptilian. And these reptilians that are running the place and bringing about chaos, they appeal to that side of your nature by the things that are promoted, by the vibrations that are emitted on the planet, the fear, the stresses, the worries, the things that don't give you that celestial mindset or to be in bliss. We say hatat.
I heard that the reptilians, they feed off us when we are in a state of fear. So when we are in a high vibratory state of love, they don't exist on that level. So they can't mess with us when we vibrate in love.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And that's why you hear people say love is the answer to everything. But they also then desecrate that by giving you a different version of love, which is, when you spell it backwards, phonetically again, the language, you get evil, yeah? And the love we're talking about is divine love, which is unconditional ashuk. And it's not easy because ashuk is something that, regardless of the situation, you can still be able to unite and work with people. That's to recalibrate yourself. It's like, even when you look at, when we're talking about like, the master teacher, when he was explaining about being like Enki or Murdoch, sorry, the son of Enki, he had to change his nature to go against the part of him that was more of the reptilian, because you're dealing with the Anu's draconian wife, you see, Id. So I'm saying he had to learn to balance and have the both natures to be able to deal with us. And that's because we have that nature of 180 degrees of disagreeable and 180 degrees of agreeable. But the disagreeable side of you is where the society that feeds the reptilian nature of you, that's why meat is promoted, you know, violence and chaos and, as you say, fear and worry and all these things, because they generate that negativity, that negative energy that they feed off. And as you said yourself, if you don't vibrate on those frequencies, then you're of no use to them. You're starving them off of that energy. And so the planet globally, like if the people on the planet have the right information, the right knowledge, they're gonna, like you say, change their mindset. They're gonna raise their vibration. They're gonna think differently. They're gonna, in fact, go to a state of thinking which is higher than thinking, known as reasoning, or sound right reasoning, which you're using your mind at a higher level, connecting to these beings that are vibrating on a higher level. So you know what to do, what's right to do, not just based on yourself, but by humanity, by everyone. And it doesn't matter who you are, if you're vibrating on that level, then you're gonna come together, because it's about the resonance. You're on the same resonant frequency. You follow?